Dun, 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 dun. That has nothing to do with anything, P.S., by the way. But I'm on 2 minutes early, even if you're watching a video. I'm on 2 minutes early before I start my broadcast. It's something I like to do. I believe that you should come on 2 to 5 minutes early, maybe 3, whatever. But it gives people a chance to settle down because, come on, yeah, people say, oh, yeah, I'm going to watch that. And then life starts lifing. Social media starts social mediaing, and you forget, or they miss. And not that, since it's being taped, you're still going to be able to watch it. But, sometimes it's just more fun to watch it from the very beginning. Okay. So always, if you say you're coming on at 1, come on at before 1. And so but then I start at 1. And then even I take that principle, and this is my presentation tip. I carry that principle across into my regular life when I'm performing live. I start my presentations on time. You have to train your audience. People say, oh, well, he always starts 10, 15 minutes late. Then they won't rush to get there on the hour or whatever the time. And you say, no, Sporty starts on time. They get there. Then if they get there at 5 after, they say, well, I know I'm going to miss the first 5 minutes. That's it. They've already, accepted that. Versus how about if they say, well, he always starts at 1/4 after, I'm not going to worry about it. And then they get there at 5 after, no, at 20 after, and thinking they're, oh, phew, I only missed 5 minutes. No, they missed 20. Can you see that? So when you're presenting, train your audience to start on time. Even if you're having a party, we got less than a minute to go now, but even if you're having a party, start your parties on time. When you say, and this is my personal belief, when you say, well, let's wait for more people to get here, well, that's telling the people who are there that they're not as important. But more importantly, it's 1 o'clock, so let's get rolling. All right, so goodness to you. All right, goodness to you. I always say goodness because I don't know whether you're watching morning, afternoon, or evening. But isn't it great to have good in front of your salutation? Welcome to Truth Thursday, where we recognize that tests are rarely understood until testimonies heal. Now, I like to give you the creative process. In creating this broadcast title, the first thing I decided to do was go with the fact that truth only uses half the letters in the word Thursday. Second, we've all heard that the truth shall set you free. Well, guess what? What we haven't heard and sometimes forget is that freedom can be a tough choice because freedom is actually a result. You see, my affirmation for free is, when you choose the truth, you may have to choose different surroundings. That's why freedom is a tough result, okay? And my affirmation for free is FREE, facts, risks, empathy, and excellence, okay? Like truth, you'll find it in my book, Affirmation. Now, an affirmation is an acronym that defines the word and actually brings it to life. Where most acronyms just add a word to a letter, I bring the word to life by making it an affirmation, adding a word to each letter. And then when you say it, it's an affirmation. So what is freedom? It's facts, risk, empathy, and excellence. All right. So bringing fact to life, free to life, we see that true freedom is based on facts, not luck, not guesses. And just using that and risk, RISK, as an affirmation as well, within itself, we see that recognition is success is key. We're reminded that once you know who you are, you have to also be ready to take a chance on being who you are. It's a risk. And we may not know how important it is to take that chance until we do. But I say freedom is always worth the risk. So take the risk, take the chance on yourself. So getting into what truth stands for, we'll continue to start by embracing that first word, test. But test is the root. You can't have the freedom, forecast, or fullness of a testimony without the test. Thus, my guiding scripture today will be Matthew 4:19-20. Jesus called out to them, "Come, be my disciples, and I will show you how to fish for people." And they left their nets at once and went with him. And that connects us to today's test of taking the second step. Now, to bolster that title, I'll first read the touch point that comes with the guiding scripture in my Bible. Now, a touch point is a modern day analogy attached to scripture to make it easier to understand. And that's in the Bible that I read called the Touch Point Bible. The touch point for Matthew 4:19-20 is commitment. The simplicity of Jesus' words belies their power. The call and promise of Jesus is striking, but remains powerless without a decision on our part. Imagine if Peter and Andrew had merely listened and then said, that's a very interesting invitation. Maybe we can talk about it after fishing season. They would not have become Jesus' disciples. You see, Jesus demands a decision to follow him or to remain where we are. A real decision will lead to action. The disciples left their nets and followed Jesus. You see, without decision and action, commitment is just an interesting idea. Now, often what's attached to our intent to commit is some version of the cliche, well, the first step is the hardest step. I'm here to change that today and tell you that taking the second step is the hardest. You see, we're all already involved in the first step of something. But for my argument today, I'm going to use the idea of taking any kind of mental health therapy. 2 years ago, I decided to take behavioral therapy. My Medicare benefits made me eligible for 8 online sessions. I researched the parameters I want in a therapist, and I proceeded to do what most people do. I procrastinated. I moved the call from calendar date to calendar date. I vowed to call first thing in the morning, then later that afternoon, then decided it was too late in the day or the week, then told myself I was just having a bad day or a bad time in my life, justifying the weight of my situation, convincing myself I didn't need therapy. Yet finally, I made the call. And you see, that first call was just an interview between me and the therapist, feeling one another out. Her wondering if she could help me, while I wondered if she was a person whose help I wanted. I wondered that. It wasn't a full session, and we came to an agreement on the day and time that we'd meet starting the following week. And that's when I came up with my belief that the second step is the hardest. You see, with each day's countdown, I had extended conversations with myself. How open was I really going to be? Was I going to be open? What should I mention first? That was when there were 6 days to go. As I hit 5, 4, 3, and 2, and 1, I had more conversations and nerves to ease and notes to write down, none of which was required, by the way. And when the day finally came, I was wide open and very proud of how calmly I blurted it all out according to my plan and comfort. At least that's what I thought. One of the first things that I really learned was that I didn't truly open up and get comfortable until the 3rd or 4th session. Of course, now I was halfway through while actually ready for stage 1. Fortunately, I was comfortable enough to put my pride aside and ask if we had to shut it down after 8 sessions. She checked, got back to me, and let me know that we could extend another 4 weeks. And that extra time made a difference because I had become more comfortable in not just thinking, yet believing that this therapy was helpful. And in the process, I became a better participant in my own healing. Now, after reading a book called Mental Freedom, You Hold the Key by my good friend Kim Ulver, I can imagine that my therapist had this thought pattern and my empowering her to do so in my choosing her to share her gift of listening. Here's what I think my therapist might have been thinking. but this is what's written in Kim's book. With mental freedom, I've learned that I am responsible for being the counselor I can be, but my clients are responsible for the choices that they make. I am responsible for teaching my students the best way I can. They are responsible for their learning. I am responsible for leading my workers in the direction of my vision. They are responsible for how they choose to follow or not. Notice those are three different categories of professionals and leaders. So to practice mental freedom, by the way, it is critical to understand what is your responsibility and what is not. You are responsible for getting your own needs met and doing your best with your commitments. It is not your responsibility to get other people to do what you think is best. That is their responsibility. This is easy to understand, yet difficult to implement. Success comes with committed, dedicated practice. And see, that's written in the book, and that's not the whole book, yet it's what resonated with me this morning as it connects to my affirmation focus. FOCUS. Finding ourselves creates unlimited success. Focus on you and let other people come into focus. And meanwhile, those of you who know me already know that this is an intentional backwards spelling of STEP, STEP. And it's a reminder that wisdom is in retrospect. And I'm throwing in the Sankofa bird here in recognition of Black History Month, which I celebrate beyond February. You see, Sankofa is an Akron word from Ghana that means to go back and get it. It's a concept that encourages people to learn from their past to inform the future. Sankofa is often represented by an Adikra symbol of a bird flying forward while looking backward. The egg in the bird's mouth represents the knowledge of the past that can be used to create wisdom for the future. So with my new knowledge of the impact behavioral therapy would have on me, I did go back last year for another 12 sessions. And I recommend it to you if you have success with it the first time, especially. I also believe that it's best to go only out of curiosity and try it out with something that's not major. Just something that's itching you and may need a good talking out. You see, for any kind of therapy, mental or physical, you have to believe that it will work. I now see it as a viable option for if I get something major. When that happens, I'll know to turn step around and how to select the right therapist for myself. I'll spend less time testing the relationship and getting to the testimony because of my experience and bravery to not let pride stop me from taking care of myself so that I can take care of those who need me to be in my right mind, unafraid to take the steps necessary to stay that way. In fact, there's a post today that I put in Facebook and LinkedIn that said, if you don't make yourself a priority, how someone's trying to make you a priority, but you're blocking them from helping you because you haven't made yourself a priority. That's it. I never quote myself properly. So go back and find that meaning, but make yourself a priority. Okay. You see, the truth is any step that you take is ordered by God, and a reminder that without decision and action, commitment is just an interesting act. Remember, Jesus demands a decision. Matthew 4:19-20. He demands a decision to follow him or to remain where you are. And when you join us on Truth Thursday, here we recognize that tests are rarely understood until their testimonies heal. And freedom can be a tough choice because it is a result. Choose the truth. It's worth the different surroundings. let your result be that you take the second step. If you'd like a copy of Mental Freedom by Kim Olver, go to olverinternational.com. If you'd like a copy of your personal book of affirmations, freely follow the QR code to my store, where you can also sign up to receive my monthly fun letter, The Golden Brick Road, and download that focused affirmation and some other free stuff to keep you connected to the truth that you've decided to take the action. I'm Sporty King, and thank you for joining me again on Truth Thursday, where we recognize that tests are rarely understood until a testimony is healed. Keep getting healed and keep trusting that you will. Over and out. Ciao.